Hello, how you doing? I'm Jeffrey Lee Falshinsky, and I'm surfing the beer wave of knowledge as I welcome you back to another episode of Meaningless Minutia, a show that cracks open a cool one of curiosity and says, whoa, what was in that stuff? And with that confusing confession of meaningless musings, let's get down to this week's question, which is, did you know part of London was once wiped out by a wave made out of beer? I know what you're thinking, there's worse ways to go, but in 1814, the people living around the Horseshoe Brewery in London probably would disagree with you. When a 22-foot tall vat capable of holding 18,000 barrels of dark beer burst open, releasing its contents, resulting in a wave of dark beer that destroyed the brewery and the surrounding neighborhood. And how could such an alcoholic wave of hazy doom happen, you probably weren't wondering? Well, the common practice back then when brewing dark beers such as porter was to ferment and let the beer mature in large wooden barrels. Porter was a popular alcoholic beverage in London at the time. In order to keep up with demand, brewers began constructing large wooden vats to mature the beer in. The largest of these vats was said to be able to hold 22,000 imperial barrels of beer. And holding these alcoholic wooden towers of future bad decisions together was a series of 18-ton iron hoops, and it was on October 17th that the storehouse clerk first reported that one of these iron hoops had slipped down off of its wooden container. Now, this didn't concern the clerk none, since the occasional hoop failure wasn't uncommon. Matter of fact, it was such a common occurrence that the clerk just wrote a note, so the owner knew to fix it at a later date. Unfortunately for him, an hour later, the vat burst open, releasing its contents and causing a domino effect with the other vats, which released their contents. In total, 323,000 gallons of porter was released, bursting a hole through the brewery wall, which then headed into the surrounding neighborhood. It was said that the wave of porter was 15 feet high as it swept down the neighborhood street. This wave destroyed 2 houses and ended up killing 8 people, 5 of which were ironically mourners at an Irish wake that was happening. It was later reported that there might have been 9 more deaths that happened from alcoholic poisoning when people showed up after the tragedy, scooped up the liquid still on the street, and then drank it. During the inquest, it was determined that the brewery was acting in acceptable practices at the time, and no charges was brought up against them. The brewery did go into bankruptcy, though, and would have closed its doors forever if not for the government intervening with financial assistance. The Horseshoe Brewery and others like it, though, did stop using wooden vats after this incident, opting instead for lined concrete vessels that would better withstand the pressures that much liquid was causing. The brewery moved locations sometime after the tragedy and is now the site of the Dominion Theater, which, for reasons probably not spoken, chose not to include a beer garden. And with that, I can feel your mind mentally grasping for the last bit of air, so I best stop there. But before you go with any superior feelings over them London folks, let me leave you with this little perspective panorama. A large part of Boston was taken out by a wave of molasses, which begs the unnecessary philosophic question, which way would you rather go? So, until we meet again, I'm Jeffrey Lee Falshinsky saying, adios, amigos.